This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea.
What? You got a quest?
I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments. Welcome back to Navel Gazing at Camp David. This week we're heading to Bordeaux, France to have a look at one of the latest new launches of one of the catamaran industry's giants, the Lagoon 55. Today we are going to 1. Review its specifications, pricing and layout against 3 similar vessels. 2. Do a full tour asking what would Sylvia say. 3. Navel gaze the innovation and or adjustment that might make life aboard just a little bit easier. 4. Have a look at the used market for 3 to 5 year old pre-owned comparables. And 5. Give it a Dave score and compare the results with all our previously reviewed yachts. All this fun will be sandwiched between a pairing of wine and a work of art from the same region as the guest yacht in an effort to capture the culture and people who gave birth to these wonderful vessels. Waves, wine, art, and ideas. What a great way to spend 30 minutes. So let's get going. From high above Vancouver, we head east across the continent and the Atlantic to the northwest of France and the Jeannot Yards, birthplace of last week's yacht, the mighty Jeannot Yacht 65. From here, we head south to the home of Lagoon and this week's guest yacht, the 55. Finally, we head back north and across the river to the famous Bordeaux region and this week's wine pairing at the vineyards of Chateau Bernadotte and their Haut-Medoc Cru Bourgeois 2016. Chateau Bernadotte is a renowned winery located in the Haut-Medoc region of Bordeaux, France. Its history dates back to 1865, where Pierre Bernard, a Bordeaux wine merchant, purchased several vineyards to create a large estate. In 1997, the property was acquired by Champagne Louis Roederer, which invested heavily in modernizing and expanding the vineyard and winery. Under Roederer's ownership, Chateau Bernadotte has become known for producing elegant and refined wines that reflect the unique terroir of the Haut-Medoc region. Today, the estate spans over 120 hectares, with a majority of the vineyards consisting of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. Chateau Bernadotte is considered a top producer of Bordeaux wines and is a true testament to the region's rich winemaking history. We're going to have a look now at the beautiful Lagoon 55, and I have been dying to get aboard this boat since it was announced. When I was in Le Grand Mont last April, they had just finished the initial hull and were sailing it around. And at that early stage, before even completing the first really commercially available hull, they'd already sold over 50 hulls. It's remarkably well received, and we're about to see why. Chateau Bernadotte Haut-Medoc Cru Bourgeois 2016 is a unique blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Petit Verdot grapes, carefully selected and harvested from the estate's vineyards in Haut-Medoc, France. The grapes are fermented in temperature-controlled stainless steel tanks to ensure optimal extraction of flavors and tannins. The wine is then aged for 12 months in French oak barrels, where it develops complex aromas of blackcurrant, cherry, and vanilla. The oak barrels also help to soften the tannins and add a layer of depth and structure to the wine. This wine is a testament to the skill and dedication of the winemakers of Chateau Bernadotte to produce a wine of exceptional quality and character. Chateau Bernadotte is a classic Haut-Medoc wine featuring notes of blackcurrant, plum, and earthy undertones. On the nose, the wine boasts aromas of black fruit, cassis, and dark chocolate. With its elegant tannins, it has a smooth and well-balanced structure leading to a long and lingering finish. This wine has received numerous awards, including being one of the best wines of the year in Decanter magazine, scoring 92 points in Wine Spectre and being awarded a gold medal at the prestigious Concours de Bordeaux. It has also been named a Cru Bourgeois, further cementing its well-earned reputation as one of the top wines in the Medoc region. Overall, this is an impressive wine that is sure to impress any wine connoisseur. Oh, that's very nice. Cheers. Let's go have a look at that boat. We're going to have a look now at the beautiful Lagoon 55, and I have been dying to get aboard this boat since it was announced. When I was in Le Grand Mont last April, they had just finished the initial hull and were sailing it around. And at that early stage, before even completing the first really commercially available hull, they'd already sold over 50 hulls. It's remarkably well received, and we're about to see why. The lines of this boat really come into themselves, as you can see here, once you get up to that 55-foot length. It really, that stretching out of this architecture, it kind of eliminates the guppiness that you're used to seeing on shorter lagoons, and really makes room for the vast amount of entertainment and living space you have on board here. She is a very handsome vessel, both in these videos and photos as well as in person. She doesn't feel intimidating per se, but you can certainly sense the space on board. I was surprised when I was up on that fly bridge there at how unintimidated I felt. I felt that I could take the helm of this, even as an inexperienced fellow, and do okay. It was less intimidating than, say, the Jeanneau 65. Looking at the numbers now, you can see we're looking at the profiles here. And as I was saying, once you stretch that lagoon architecture out to 55 feet, it really starts coming into its own here. The Bally 5.4, even there, it benefits from the extended length, but it is so rounded. It's so big. The freeboard is so high, even at 54 feet. It still looks a little cumbersome, but you can see the Lagoon 55 sits nicely along with the Outremer 55 and the Privilege 580. Obviously, the Outremer looks even sleeker, but there's nothing to complain about on this Lagoon 55 profile. Looking at your upwind sail area, the Privilege 580 is in the lead at 213 square meters. The Lagoon 55 is next at 181 square meters. Obviously, you're going to need every square meter you can get. The next up would be the Bally at 158 square meters and the Outremer at 152 square meters. Going down onto the cabin top now, you can immediately see the difference here. The Outremer 55 being the only one that is a true performance cruising catamaran, and it doesn't have the niceties of a fly lounge or fly bridge. The Lagoon 55 obviously has the full fly bridge, and there are those who would argue that that separates you from your beloved and could, make things a little uncomfortable. But it is so significant in the way you access it. I think it eliminates some of that, but we'll get into that when we do the tour. The Privilege 580, of course, has the best of both worlds with a mid-level helm, a fly lounge, and full communication to both the cockpit, the lounge, and even into the saloon. And the Bally 5.4, again, a full fly bridge. It's quite expansive. You feel a little bit more exposed getting up to it with the external stairs, but we'll have a closer look. Looking at the overall boat profiles, obviously the Outremer 55 with the much larger trampoline and somewhat narrower hulls, although it's not as obvious in this overhead shot. Down into the saloon and the cockpit. You can see immediately on this just how big this saloon is on the 55. Look at the width and the depth. It gets a little confusing. Your eye gets a little confused around here. but the Lagoon 55 definitely has way more square footage than any of the other contenders. The Bally 5.4 is a bit confusing in that the cockpit and the saloon are all in one with that large aft door. I'm not sure, initially I thought that was brilliant. Today, I think I'd rather have my outdoor back porch separate. But it is purely a matter of taste here. They have done a great job with massive square footage available because of what they've done. But for your traditional separated saloon and cockpit, the Lagoon 55 definitely has it in spades. The Outremer 55 did shock me when I got on board at how big it felt. The videos don't do it justice. You get on board that thing and you're a bit gobsmacked at the sense of space that you have in the saloon and the massive doors that open up to join saloon and cockpit are absolute genius. The Privilege 580, it's a sort of a balance between the two. It feels very spacious, but there's definitely separations there between them. How can you argue against the Privilege 580? It's a gorgeous boat. Heading down into the actual accommodations now. This is where you immediately see the slimness of the hulls on the Outremer 55. And of course, you get it on the performance side. This is a beautifully balanced boat for performance and accommodation. I find the storage space a little wanting on the Outremer. There's probably maybe a total of 3 linear feet of hanging closet rod on the entire boat. But that just means my wife has to wear a bikini more. That's good. I think the French are genius. The Lagoon 55, it is palatial. Just straight up palatial. As far as getting Sylvie on this boat and making her feel comfortable, this is a full replacement for her house. Full walk-around berths, complete sense of luxury. The owner's hull is ginormous. And your space upstairs, in the saloon is extraordinary. Privilege 580, again, very, it feels custom. But a very high level of finish of custom. The woods, the veneers, the inset brushed aluminum, beautifully done. And that massive port side forward owner's suite that also has staircase up into the forward cockpit, genius. But you have a 58-foot platform to do this on. The Bally 5.4, probably the broadest, the widest of the hull configurations, as you can see here. Again, that results in significant space in your aft owner's suite with full walk-around berths. We'll get into, finish quality. We've already talked about that. I feel that the Lagoon 55 has a higher degree of finish and feel and elegance than the Bally. But for space and layout, the Bally's pretty darned extraordinary. Just looking at the platform as we speak, your largest one obviously is a Privilege at 18.7 by 9.2 meters. But if you look at the Lagoon 55, you have this almost the same beam at 9 meters, and then you've got 16.4 in your length. The Bally 5.4 is a 16.8 meter length and then an 8.7 meter beam. And of course, the Outremer, much slimmer and sleeker, 16.7 in length and 8.3 in beam. Getting down onto the numbers, we've already identified, of course, that the Bally is the most economical at 1.12. As we head down then into length overall, length at the waterline, and beam, the big one, of course, is the Privilege 580. It is the longest by a significant level. This is a 61-foot catamaran. The rest are within a hair's breadth of length. The Outremer at 54.9, the Lagoon at 54.3, and the Bali at 55 even. As far as a beam goes, again, the Privilege is the big one, but it is the longest at 9.18 meter. But the Lagoon is, as we already identified, right there behind it at 9 meter even, and everybody else is down sort of 8.7, 8.3. Draft, it's the Outremer. Of course, we've got dagger boards on the Outremer, so you can raise them, so your minimum draft is 1.2 meter. Among the others that have mini keels, the Bali is the least draft at 1.48, followed by the Lagoon at 1.55, and then the Privilege at 1.75. The displacement, of course, the Outremer wins this. She's a light boat at 13.9 ton. And among the rest, you've got the Bali, which is the next lightest at 20.8 tons, which for her size, is quite admirable. Looking now at the Privilege and the Lagoon, you've got the Lagoon, of course, at 27.7, and then the heaviest being the Privilege at 29 ton. Upwind sail area, we already looked at this. You've got 213 on the Privilege. You need it for the weight. The next up is the Lagoon 55, and again, you need it because of the weight, 181 square meters. Then you got the Bali 558, and the upwind sail area on the Outremer is 152. Now, given that the Outremer is almost half the weight, to be that close in sail area gives you some indicator of what we're going to see in the performance numbers. Tankage, the Bali leads. You got 1,200 of both fuel and water. And then it's probably the Lagoon, the Privilege, and Outremer, which is surprisingly light on both fuel and water, but you're going to sail more and you got water makers. So there you go. Heading into the more technical stuff here, looking at hull material, you've got the Outremer, I think, out in the lead, although the hull materials here, there are no real standouts. With Outremer, you've got a single layer of solid polyester laminate below the waterline, giving you a lot of durability there. They've got a vinyl ester outer layer to avoid water intrusion. The hulls and decks are polyester with a Divicel foam core, and certain components are reinforced with carbon. So you have an outer vinyl ester, you got some carbon, you got a solid below the waterline hull. That's probably the best construction of the bunch. The next one, it's sort of, I would say, Privilege and Bali, just based on what you see here. But obviously, I would say the Privilege is a far better constructed boat overall. She's built like a custom boat. If you've watched any of Rob Poirier's videos at the factory, you know the caliber of this boat. So E-glass, polyester, PVC foam core, vinyl ester outer layer. Very similar to the Outremer 55. The reason I gave the Outremer the lead there is you've got some carbon, and they've achieved the same with a much lighter hull. Next would probably be the Bali with the polyester PVC foam core, vacuum infusion. Now, it's arguable between the Lagoon and the Bali here. So it's the age-old argument of balsa versus foam. And there is an argument to be made, I believe, between the two. It's not as cut and dried as many would lead you to believe. So the Lagoon is a monolithic polyester E-glass below the waterline, much similar to the Outremer. And then you got balsa core vacuum infused above the waterline. Looking down into the performance indicators, of course, the first is sail area to displacement, indicating power. Here, the significant lead is given to the Outremer 55 at 28.61. From there, the next one is a bit of a surprise, and that's the Privilege. Now, of course, you have the length there to help you out, but it's 22.96. followed by the Bali, which is 22.68, which isn't bad, followed by the Lagoon 55 at 20.11. Now, displacement to hull length or indicator of heaviness. We've again got the Outremer in the lead at 74.59. Here its lowest number wins, and the rest are, almost double that. You've got the next best at the Bali at 124.75. Then the Privilege at 138.97, and finally the big girl, the Lagoon, at 173.17. However, the comfort ratio goes to the Lagoon. It's just numbers. This thing is going to be probably more comfortable in a heavy sea. As we go down to hull speed, you've got the Privilege in the lead because it's a factor of length at 10.29. Now, jumping into the KSP, which is an indicator of performance at 10 knots of wind. I don't know the calculated angle, but you can assume it's the same one. So this is just sort of a rough indicator of performance against wind speed, if you will. So in the lead, we've got the Outremer, which is a 90% boat. Then next is going to be the Bali, which is a 74% boat. And then the Privilege 580 at 73% and the Lagoon at 55%. Or 66%. Okay, hopping aboard. What would Sylvia say? Well, I think it's pretty obvious what Sylvia would say to this. I wouldn't have any problem getting Sylvia on board this. Look at that beautiful built-in barbecue coming across to the built-in hydraulic swim platform and dinghy lift. The beautiful staples in the back there that create a separation to that dinghy lift and yet a sense of extension of the aft deck. The massive sugar scoops that make boarding and boarding and offboarding so easy. You've got the cutout at the back of the side hull there so you can move off the side of the wharf if you want to, if you're not med-moored. And hopping on board, just look at the space you have and the elegance of this built-in grill. Your smoke isn't going to bother your occupants anywhere in the boat because it's nicely aft. I really like the way they've integrated this dinghy lift. The use of those staples in the back there really gives a sense of continuity from the cockpit out onto the dinghy lift. Look at this beautiful, beautiful cockpit, the rounded edges, the quality of the soft goods, cup holders everywhere you look, the integrated clears and screens that can pop down. They're not looking ugly or hanging about. Integrated freezers, fridges, ice makers, the sink. Lots of areas in the back of the sink there for your oils and your various cooking spices and such. Just a very elegant feel. Even the solid teak table, the nature of the hinges they use for the segments, they look so good. And this is what I meant heading up to the flybridge. I don't feel exposed. I don't feel exposed at all on this. And looking around the flybridge, you can feel that sense of security all around it. Once you're up here, you've got significant winches helping you out. And the space that you've got, the beautiful teak flooring that they've extended up here, I'm sure it's optional, but there it is. Lots of cup holders. I feel safe and secure in this. There's a very high bulwark there, lots of rails to hold on to, and my visibility out the front is absolutely extraordinary. Now, I don't really like heights, which is funny for a guy with a pilot's license, but I wouldn't be putting myself out in that front sun lounger there anytime soon. The hardtop is outstanding. Lots of windows up to see your sail area, and then you can access up there to get everything in the lazy bag. Again, look at this access up here. I feel secure and safe, well inboard. So moving up and down, even in a heavy sea, wouldn't bother me. Now, the water collection channel turns into a beautiful rail, a handrail all the way down the cabin top. So you've got continuous grab areas all the way down here. Beautiful wide weather decks and the integrated or flat flush hatches. Nice princess seats and a beautiful teak. And your front cockpit is a real cockpit. You've got two options here. One are these carbon poles with the sun cover there. The other is actually a convertible top that drops behind the back of the seats and so just pulls up almost like an Austin Mini or something of that nature. Probably what I would go with just because I don't have to work that hard. Nice integrated teak table with cup holders. Here's just to give you a sense of dimension when I'm sitting up here. I felt extremely comfortable. Again, it is an absolutely beautiful space. As we head back down the side here, again, you can see the width of these decks and the handhold all the way down. Nobody, not even Nick, could criticize Lagoon on the handhold all the way down the side of the weather deck. As we head down here, you can see the access into one of the aft cabins, which is really quite nice. The cabin, lots of space, even in a four aft configuration. You've got full three-sided access, and this is a guest suite. So, I mean, who wouldn't want to live in here? Or you could have it as crew quarters. It's absolutely outstanding. I just love the Corian treatment that Lagoon does. It's very tasteful. It's not just flat white or glossy white. They've made it look marble-esque without being gaudy. It really, really have done a beautiful balanced job here. Again, you get the sense of that dinghy lift and how it extends the feel of your space. Look at how beautifully finished the underside of that cockpit is. Now, a little navel gazing. These are big boats. You're bringing them in odd conditions. Lighting, it's surprising that it's not already an integrated option, far more significant than it is. This is a product called Razor Lighting, and it has a very, very low profile, completely sealed, IP67. You can do it up in sets like we see here, 20,000 lumens. It's the world's first flush-mounted light bar, 10,000 lumens per bar, so you could have 30,000 lumens out the front. You can configure it anywhere you want. It doesn't take away from the look of your boat in any way, shape, or form. And I've heard, now that I've paid attention to this much more lately, the difference that having this makes to the use of your boat as you're either, boarding from the back at night as you come in from a nice day on shore, or security, sense of security. If you hear something outside, you flip them all on. It just turns everything into daylight. Safety and comfort and night mooring. I think it's a tremendous idea and should be included a great deal more. Now, here we go into this fantastic saloon. I'm not a fan of the light wood. I really did like the darker wood that Lagoon did for a while, but I think they've executed this really nicely. They've actually won me over here, especially with that contrasting dark floor. It really adds to the sense and feel here. And again, look at the texture in that Corian top. They got nice fiddles there. Everything feels very, very classy in here. It does not feel like an RV. It feels like a luxury condominium at home. Beautiful ceiling integration there, sunroof. There's my friend Scott from Fraser Yacht Sales here in Vancouver. We only meet when we're overseas, it seems. Love the contrasting piping that Lagoon uses. I'm a big fan of that. I think it adds a touch of class and quality to everything. As we head down here, you can see the grab handles all have inset leather. The quality of the Alpi wood and the trim is top notch. I would like to see more rounded corners just from a safety perspective. But as you head down into this cabin, look at this twin cabin. gosh, you really can't criticize that. The sense of space and light and comfort. And here's a absolutely gorgeous VIP suite. We've now seen 3 beautiful berths on this vessel. As you head into this beautiful head, electric toilet, beautiful sink, Corian counters, Corian floor in the shower. I just think they've done a beautiful job with that. I know it's a small thing, but it jumps out at you in the overall impression. Maybe you don't realize it, but when your eye goes through that shower, ooh, that looks good. It's that and or sort of the teak grill that some put in here. Underfloor storage, and it's not just, get a suction cup and drag it up or a hole in it, sort of like Leopard does, which looks classless. There's a beautiful inset chrome hatch hook, the handle that you pull up. And access your hatch, which is all on hinges. And there is a full separate washer and dryer. Absolutely gorgeous. Here is your master suite. You can just see, I mean, they've done a beautiful job in the headboard and the paneling. Again, your head here is absolutely gorgeous. Now, this wasn't the largest owner's configuration. You can get one that's even bigger than this and spoils the owner that much more. So we're looking here at a 5-cabin boat, and you can get the configurations which give you even more owner suite here by a long shot. But look at the light. I mean, you walk around in here, and I've been in hotel rooms in Rome that are smaller than this and have far less light than this. So you've got great ventilation, whether you got the AC on or not, through the side ports, the ceiling ports. Again, I'm not sure if you noticed in the floorboard of this, the sole of this head, there was another access hatch for storage. Look at the nice little leather handle details even on this. Beautiful boat. Now, let's get into some pre-owned comparables. Bearing in mind that our pre-owned comparables, we look at the sail-away price as a base plus 50%. So in this case, we're looking at 2.3 million US as our base plus 50% on our Lagoon 55. So 2.3 is what we're comparing everything to. Our first boat is the Outremer 5X 60-foot performance cruiser 2020. They're asking, that's a 2-year-old boat, they're asking 2.3 versus 2.3 for the new Lagoon. This would be an exceedingly difficult choice for me. The 5X is a legendary boat. You've got massive space on board. And yet, I know Sylvia probably would be happier on the Lagoon. But wow, I would really have to sit and cogitate on this for a while. Next up, we've got the Leopard 58, a 2018 boat. So you're looking at a 4-year-old boat. They're asking about 2 million-ish, 1.85 versus 2.3. The Leopard 58 has an epic flybridge, as everybody knows. The interior, although massive space, feels way too RV-ish for me. I would go with what I feel is a more refined Lagoon probably on this one. And it's just a little shorter boat, probably a little easier to handle for me. So I bite the bullet and buy the new Lagoon. Next up, we're looking at a Lagoon 560 S2 2019. So this is the predecessor to the 55. Very nice boat. You're asking 1.5 versus 2.3 for a 3-year-old boat. There is no doubt that the 55 is a far more elegant boat. It has a bunch of features that I really like, but for $700 to $800,000 difference. The 560 S2, especially if I could get it in the darker wood, which they did in the last year of production, I would go with the 560 S2 and save my bucks. It's a great boat. Next up, we're looking at a Fountain Peugeot Samana 59. So 59-foot boat. She's 2021, so 1 year old. They're asking 3.2. I would, without a hesitation, go with the Lagoon 55. I know the Samana will outrun it, and it has some great features to it, but for my application, that 55 ticks every single box and would be easier to manage. Finally, one more. We got 2019 Naughty Tech 542. This is one of my favorite boats of all time. Level of fit and finish inside, the overall execution, absolutely gorgeous. A little nervous about the exposed aft helms after my discussion with Rob Poirier, but I still love this boat. So we're looking at a 3-year-old boat, 54 feet long. They're asking 1.35 versus 2.3. I'd save my $1 million and do the Naughty Tech and figure out helm covers. Finally, we've got the Bally 5.4, 2021 boat. We got a 1-year-old boat here, 2 years old, I guess, and 57 feet long. They're asking 1.5 versus 2.3. Ooh, that is a big difference. And yeah, the Bally isn't as pretty, but wow, it has some great features. I'd have to go Bally on this one. I'd have to. Okay, moving into monohull heresy. What do we compare the Lagoon 55 to in monohulls? As you know, I take the length of the catamaran and I add 20% to do a proper livable space comparative to a monohull. Measuring foot to foot is not apples to apples when you're comparing catamarans to monohulls. So I do just the rule of adding 20%. So first up, we're looking at a 2018 Jeanneau 64. So we're looking at a 4-year-old boat. They're asking $1.1 million versus 2.3. I'm hesitating here. One would think my immediate response would be the Jeanneau 64. But there's a bunch of factors. The Lagoon 55 is just so good. I'm probably going to do similar sailing speeds. Good chance the Lagoon will do faster than the Jeanneau 64. Comfort, you're going to be way more comfortable on the Lagoon 55. Way more comfortable. Sylvia's going to be way happier. One gust of wind heels this 65-foot monster over, and Sylvia's done and flying back to Canada. So even with the Delta, if I had the cash, I'd do the Lagoon 55. Next up is the Hansa 675, one of my all-time favorite monohulls. They're asking 1.42 to 2.3. This one, I know it sounds hypocritical, but I'd think about it. The interior, the layout, everything about this boat, it's hardtop. There's a bunch of other factors here that go towards me thinking it might be worth the $900,000 Delta to look at this one, assuming I could handle it. And I've never sailed a boat this big, and I'm sure there are a lot of folks out there who would go, you would be crazy to try and double hand this, or let's face it, single-hand it with Sylvia on board. Now, counterbalancing that is everything's power. You got power furlers and both head sails. You got power, probably in-boom furling on the main. You've got bow and stern thrusters. You got everything. So this one I would take more time and think about it. Next up, we've got the CMB 66, 2018. That's a 4-year-old boat. They're asking $2 million. There's no doubt I'd go with the Lagoon on this one. There's not enough on the CMB to make it worth it. I think the Delta is just too small. You got a 3-year-old mono hull. It's big. It's a 70-foot boat. Very challenging to single hand. Lots of space on it, no doubt, but no hard top, none of that. So I would definitely go with the Lagoon 55. So we're on to the Dave score. How did she do? Well, you know what? She did pretty darn good. This is an outstanding vessel, as far as what my application is. It is as the biggest I'd ever want to go in single handing, but there is payoff for that moderate discomfort I'd have to overcome in spades on this. The interior on this, as far as elegance go, is a solid 8. It's probably higher than an 8, but we don't go in fractions here. The exterior, definitely an 8. I would almost even give it a 9. I probably, I only gave it an 8 here because there's no interior access to the forward cockpit, but wow, everything is so comfortable and elegant and beautifully executed. The interior comfort, definitely an 8. Again, I probably should have given that a 9. The exterior comfort, an 8, only because you don't have the interior access to the forward cockpit. And, at the time I was very concerned about the full raised helm, the full flybridge. But after considering it with that internal access to that relative internal access to the flybridge, I think the comfort would be there. Quality, solid 7. There's been worries about, Lagoon with all the 450 nonsense. I was watching Lady K, and he broke it down, no pun intended, and identified it really as a single model run issue. Which Lagoon are stepping up to, especially given there's 1,000 of those out there. It is a massive financial burden for that company, but they have taken ownership of it and are taking steps to alleviate the situation. Performance, obviously, it's a 6. Lazy Sailor, it's a 7. Condo, it's a 9, if not a 10. Geek 7, and value for money, it's a solid 7. So we ended up at 75 out of 100. I would say in thinking over this again that this should be a 76 or a 77. Putting it right there in the company of HH52s, the Lagoon 65, the Portofino, and the Privilege, for very different reasons, and all of those are well up there. For our art of the region today, we're enjoying Beach at Ebe by Edgar Degas. Edgar Degas was a French Impressionist painter known for his skillful depictions of modern life, particularly of Parisian dancers, and his innovative use of color and composition. He began his career as a classical painter, studied at École des Beaux-Arts, and copying works by the great masters at the Louvre. But he was drawn to capturing the vitality and movement of contemporary life. Degas often used unconventional viewpoints, such as glimpses of dancers from behind or from above, to create a sense of intimacy and dynamism. He also experimented with pastels and the monotype printing process, which allowed for greater spontaneity and experimentation in his work. Despite his success and critical acclaim, Degas remained a private and aloof figure in the art world, refusing to participate in group exhibitions and preferring to work independently. Beach at Ebe is 1869, and it's a beautiful painting by Edgar Degas that captures the serene atmosphere of a beach at low tide. In this painting, Degas makes use of his signature Impressionist style to depict the play of sunlight on the sand and the shimmering water and the trees swaying in the breeze. The textures and colors used in the painting help to create a sense of depth and movement in the scene. The elegant figures of the seagulls and the figures in the background add a sense of tranquility to the painting, making it a perfect representation of the peaceful and relaxing ambience of the beach. The painting was last sold in 2015 for approximately, wait for it, $5.2 million US. Well, that's it for this week. Waves, wine, art, and ideas. I do hope you've enjoyed all of it. I love this boat. It is obviously well up there in the list. And I think Lagoon have really absolutely nailed this particular space for exactly what they wanted to do. Hope you enjoyed it all. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks and cheers.